Hi folks, Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about this is a sort of a lunch that that I was at, or we were at. My wife was there too, and we ended up. One of the people there was a sort of a docudrama, not really a movie, I suppose, but more a documentary docudrama type. Producer, and she was sort of a section head, so wasn't the most senior person in this organisation. This organisation receives, nearly all its revenues from government, then the balance from NGOs. They have masses of NGO activist interns working there, so their staff is probably double what it would be. So the activist NGOs are putting their strident radical activists in there, but they're being paid by George Soros and those sort of people. I don't know if Soros is paying them directly, but so all those interns, again, doubling their staff, and they're effectively external people who, well, not effectively, are external people who are radical activists and who are doing a lot of the work and putting in a lot of the time and the structure and script writing and all sorts of things. But anyway, this sort of woman's in charge of a lot of that. Now, she looks like she's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Not sure why. She's been married twice. She's not bad looking. She's been married twice and has got a free house on both occasions, and they're in prime, locations, very desirable postcodes. So her net worth in just real estate alone is between $7 and $8 million. She drives a fancy car and wears designer clothes, so I'm not sure where the stress and the worry comes from. And she's effectively got a job for life. So all the normal sort of stresses, financial and job security, all that sort of thing. She doesn't have any of those, so I'm not sure what she's on the verge of a nervous breakdown about. It must be either. She insists, by the way, that she is an oppressed victim. She is evilly oppressed by the patriarchy, misogyny. Hitler is personally oppressing her. And so she's got this ideological view, which I guess you'd need in the sort of job she's in now. Her job in this docudrama is to pump out propaganda, in effect. If there's a historical drama to be made about King Henry VIII of England, then she's part of the group of activists who'll say, well, we've got to rewrite this and make out Henry VIII as a black lesbian or something. So this is now it came up in conversation that and somebody said, I was about to say this, but someone else said it, that rather than, for example, take a Shakespeare play and just change all the people into being black lesbians, or to, instead of taking hold of Snow White, and turning that into something woke, why don't you create your own woke stuff? Why not have, black lesbian Snow White and the transgender prince, for example? Why not do that? That ticks all the boxes, the activist boxes. Do that and just call it Black Lesbian Snow White. Now, she was quite forthright on this and said, no, people won't go and watch that. Now, she says people won't go and watch woke stuff that's specifically woke, made for woke audience. They won't go and watch that. But she equally asserts that what the people want is woke propaganda. So she's pretending that the reason they produce woke stuff or pervert and rape, existing iconic sort of Western white stories, the reason they do that is because that's what the people want. At the same time, though, she says that people won't go and watch stuff that's billed and promoted as woke. Now, she cited stage plays because there's also got a division that does stage plays, which she does some work in as well. And if they do, black lesbian Shakespeare, no one will come and watch it. But if they say it's a real McCoy Shakespeare play, and then they insert woke stuff into it, like black lesbians as, Othello or something like that, then they can get people to look at it, and under other circumstances they wouldn't. So their sort of rationale is that if someone's paid $100 to go to watch a Shakespeare play, and then you put all the woke propaganda into it, you don't tell anyone about it beforehand, all the posters that promote it, all the adverts, all the advertising, the online advertising, that says nothing about the woke. You may mention something sort of fifth paragraph down, saying a reimagining or something, but that's it. You're not telling people what you're doing. You're not saying that all the characters are going to be black lesbians, but then once people are sitting in the seat, they've paid the $100, then you sort of surprise attack them, ambush them with this woke propaganda. And her argument is that some people will get up and walk out, but they're Nazis. But most people, because they've paid the $100, they're already sitting there. They've kind of allocated the night to watch it. They'll stay there and they'll just have to put up with the propaganda. Those that don't like the propaganda are Hitler, and other people may have their mind changed. They may be changed from being misogynist Nazis into being good black lesbian loving people, and that's what we want. But just listening to the way she talks, I don't doubt she represents the people that she works with and around her. She's saying that their primary purpose is to reshape society. Propaganda is an essential component of that reshaping and re-engineering society. Therefore, they have a right to do it. They have a right to do it. Anyone says they don't have a right to put propaganda in there, using deception as the bait and switch deception, anyone that questions it, doubts it, or doesn't like it, is Hitler, personally Hitler. So that's the position they take. So they think they're on this moral mission of sort of cosmic good, and anyone that thinks otherwise, again, is Hitler. So it was interesting listening to this. Now, it's the same as how absurd it is, her claiming that she's a victim of misogyny and this, that, and the next thing, when she's got between $7 and $8 million of real estate given to her for free. By the way, she didn't have to work for it; it's given to her for free by the divorce courts, and so. She's again a job for life, driving a fancy car, living in a great postcode, designer label clothes. And she's still, as she sees it, this cruelly oppressed victim of the patriarchy, misogyny, and so on. So she's really fighting back against these things. Look at me, look at my life. I'm a victim. I have to fight back, and I'm fighting back against Hitler. So with this madness, you write her off in. Because there are so many of people like her now, you sort of say, well, gee whiz. And they mostly seem to have managed to get themselves into positions of some sort of influencing, as she does, producing these docudramas. She won't have it that she insists that it's her right to use deception. Or deception is an accepted, bait and switch deception is an accepted. You've got to deceive people into watching the propaganda, because the propaganda will change minds, which re-engineers society, and we're allowed to do that. We must do it. We must do it because Nazis are everywhere. Nazis! And yet she's surrounded by like-minded people. She has government funding coming out of the gazoo. She's got NGOs and everything around it. You could not have a less, well, not Nazi as they mean it, you could not have a less Nazi. She's surrounded by people who are supporting it, funding it, cheering it on, backing it in every way. And yet she still insists that everyone is against her and she's surrounded by Nazis. She's fighting back against the man. She is personally fighting Hitler. And the insanity of that point of view. But she doesn't see it as deception. Bait and switch deception. I was saying, well, your advert. I mentioned this. Well, the adverts that your company ran for something, made no mention of black lesbians, and yet there's wall-to-wall black lesbians. Is that? Why not just say black lesbians? No. If we say black lesbians, people won't come and watch. We have to bait and switch. We have to deceive. We are morally required to deceive. We are morally required to lie, cheat, and treacherously deceive. We're morally required to do it. Why are we allowed to do this? Why are we morally superior for doing this? Because we're fighting Hitler. We are fighting Hitler. That means anything goes. We can do whatever we want, and it's morally virtuous because we incite the name of Hitler to justify it. Now you'd say, well, the poor woman needs to be locked up and put in a straitjacket. And, in saner times and circumstances, maybe she would. But someone like her, I think, in reality would be, she in the real world, she never would have, got free houses and all that sort of stuff. She wouldn't have got the job. She's only got the job because she's a radical leftist activist. I doubt she could get a job, in the real world like that at all. So she'd probably be a receptionist or something like that in the real world. Maybe an accounts clerk, maybe a flunky in the marketing department or something like that. But in the real world, she certainly wouldn't have the sort of job that she's got. And again, she's only got the job because she's subscribed to the madness that Hitler is everywhere, which is insane, given the power and influence these people have, or her and her crowd have. So anyway, it was an interesting thing that they've got this right to she sees it. It's not even a right; it's an obligation to deceive and bait and switch and so on. But it is interesting that she concedes readily, by the way, without even the slightest pushback. She concedes if they do woke programs and bill it and promote it and advertise it as woke, the black lesbians and all that sort of stuff, nobody will watch it. Well, if nobody watches that, means people don't want it. Oh, no, she says, people do want it. And we need to do it anyway. We're obligated to stop people, all these Nazis everywhere from being Hitler. We're obligated to stop that through telling them lies and deceiving them. But what? And that's the insanity here. But I thought I'd mention that in this vid, that these people, they're completely unashamed under that. We have a right and obligation to cheat, deceive, and bait and switch and all that sort of thing. And they don't have any qualms about it at all. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.